Good morning to everyone. My name is Barbara Stroop, and it's a joy to welcome you all to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Clemson. I'll be serving as worship associate today in the absence of Reverend Holly Brown, who's with our children, along with Wei Huan Chen and our special guest, Jeannie Malmgren. The land on which we meet is the ancestral home of the Southern Iroquois and the Eastern Cherokee. Whoever you are, wherever you are on your life journey, you are welcome here. Whomever you love, wherever you were born, whatever language you speak, you are welcome here. Whatever your skin color, whatever your class or background, you are welcome here. Whatever your beliefs, whatever your politics, whatever your theology. We are so glad that you chose our fellowship as your place of worship this morning. We come together for worship in order to slow down and listen for the callings of our hearts and our spirits. We come together for worship so that we can be reminded of our highest aspirations and continue to transform ourselves into our best selves. If you're joining us for the first time this morning, a special welcome. If you are a visitor and would like to stand and tell us who you are, you're welcome to do so right now. Anybody? Well, we hope you will join us for coffee and social time just down the hall. And welcome to those joining us online as well. If you are interested in receiving our weekly newsletter, you can get connected to our community through it and a whole array of activities that go on here, and our collective efforts to support local social justice causes. Please reach out to our office by email. As you can see from page 2 of your order of service, there's a lot going on, and I call your attention most especially to the fact that there is a congregational meeting today at noon. We need a quorum. It will be here in the sanctuary. And now I invite you to stand as you are able to sing hymn number 1031 in the teal hymnal.
So I want to welcome all you guys to this very, very wonderful Buddhist celebration today. So I figured opening words can be from the great Thich Nhat Hanh. This is a passage about Sangha, about spiritual community, from the book The Heart of the Buddha's Teaching. So this is Thich Nhat Hanh on the importance of Sangha. Dharma is great compassion, understanding, and love. To realize these qualities, we need a Sangha. Sangha is a fourfold community of monks, nuns, and laymen and laywomen, as well as the other elements that support our practice. Practicing with the Sangha is essential. Even if we have a deep appreciation for the practice, it can be difficult to continue without the support of friends. If you sow seeds in arid land, few seeds will sprout. But if you select a fertile field and invest your wonderful seeds in it, the harvest will be bountiful. Building a Sangha, supporting a Sangha, being with a Sangha, receiving the support and guidance of a Sangha is the practice. We have individual eyes and Sangha eyes. When a Sangha shines its light on our personal views, we see more clearly. In the Sangha, we won't fall into negative habit patterns. Stick to your Sangha. Take refuge in the Sangha, and you'll have the wisdom and support you need. When members of a Sangha live in harmony, their Sangha is holy. Don't think that holiness is only for the Pope or the Dalai Lama. Holiness is also within you and within your Sangha. When a community sits, breathes, walks, and eats together in mindfulness, holiness is there.
Thank you. I would like to ask Audrey to help me up front this morning. Audrey will light our chalice, which is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism, which is also being lit at this hour in sanctuaries across the country. And while she's doing that, please join me in reciting our affirmation, which is printed in your order of service. We gather together, thank you, honey, with justice as our guide. This is our chosen covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth with freedom, and to care for one another.
As you may have heard, we're going to be talking a lot about community, spiritual community this morning. So I'm going to ask my community to help me tell this story. This is going to be an audience participation story. And because there's some things that I'm not particularly good at. For example, I can't whistle. Anybody out there can whistle? Let me hear. Yes, perfect. And I know we've got a lot of bird watchers out there. So I want to hear bird calls. Do your favorite bird call. That's good, that's good. Come on, come on, come on. I know there's more out there. And also, we're going to have to flap our wings. So let's get those wings going, guys. All right, so we're primed, right? All right. So this morning's story is about strength and unity. A dark cloud of worry spread through the forest. No longer were the hunters satisfied with capturing birds in their snares one at a time. They had developed a new technology. They were taking long strands of fiber, crisscrossing them one strand over another, and tying the strands fast at those intersections. You know what they were making? A net. Now, instead of capturing a single bird, they could capture a handful, a dozen, or hundreds of them all at once. The birds that escaped this new invention were frightened. What could they do? Some birds lost all hope. "It's pointless," they peeped with feeble voices. "There's no way we can escape this horror. We might as well give up right now." Others got busy building up their muscle strength and sharpening their bills. "If I get caught," boasted those birds, "I'll be able to cut my way free. I'll be strong enough to fly away." It was encouraging to hear hope, but not all of the birds liked the brazen approach of the strong birds. Some of the birds said, "If I escape while others die, my life will be filled with unhappiness." A meeting was called. The birds talked back and forth. This is y'all's cue. Can I hear those bird calls? At last, the birds had a plan. And sure enough, it wasn't long before they had a chance to test it. Peep, peep. Many birds heard the call, a call of distress. But who was it? Birds of all shape and size flew toward the sound. They landed on the branches of a big tree, but where was the injured bird? They couldn't see it. Suddenly, they were trapped beneath a net. It was a trick, and now they could barely move. Some of the birds panicked and cried out, but others remained calm. Soon, a whisper ran through the flock of birds that had been caught. "Take a deep breath. Remember our plan. When the king of birds sings, let's all flap our wings." The whisper was repeated, and soon it resounded from one end of the net to the other. "Take a deep breath. Remember our plan. When the king of birds sings, let us all flap our wings." The birds breathed in. The king whistled a plaintive note. My whistlers. The birds began to flap their wings. It was hard work. When it began to feel impossible for some of the birds, they looked over at their neighbors who were also hard at work and felt encouraged. They continued to flap their wings. Suddenly, they lifted right out of that tree. They rose higher and higher into the sky, carrying that net with them. The king whistled a plaintive note once more. The birds tilted their bodies to the side in unison as though they were one. The net slid off their backs and dropped to the ground. After that, a new melody could be heard in the forest. There's strength in unity. There's strength in unity. And that is the story of how the birds met their worst fears. It's the story of how we can meet ours.
Thank you, Karen. This is the time that we share our gifts to support this community and to help the Clemson Development Center as well. Your neighbors would like you to hear these joys and concerns this morning as Wei Juan places a communal stone for each of them. I hope I can read them. John Haynes and Barbara Spezialo are celebrating their 47th wedding anniversary today. Mike Cole would like you to know that there was a strong number of opponents to censorship at the Pickens County Library Board, including many from our fellowship. And Jamie Reese got the privilege of training a new trainee at work this week. Congratulations. And we don't believe this, but I'm going to read it anyway, because Martha Alexander says that she's going to be 85 on May 21st. And Karen and the board and everybody would like to remind you that we need volunteers to help with social hour over the next few weeks. So please see Karen for the sign-up sheet. Here she is. Thank you. One more stone for those that haven't expressed them but hold joys and concerns within their hearts. Thank you. And we're going to sing the children on their way to their class.
Please join me for a very short silent meditation that's very important in Buddhist practice. And if this kind of whets your appetite, join us on Tuesdays at 7. We sit a bit longer, but we'll just sit for a couple of minutes today. I'll ring the bell once to begin and again to end.
Use the mic so they can hear you at home.
Feel it less. I'm not going to say anything else. Just going to ring the bell. Please join me.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shriyani Rajapaksha. I'm very happy to be here today as we celebrate the Vesak ceremony, which is a very important celebration for Buddhists around the world. And what we are celebrating close to the full moon day of the month of May is the 3 events that happened in Buddha's life. He was born on a month of May. During that full moon season, he attained enlightenment on the month of May, and he also passed away in the month of May. Okay, so all 3 events happened to be on the month of May, close to the time of the full moon. And now it has been 2,567 years since since the passing away of the Buddha. While the Christian era begins with the birth of Jesus Christ, the Buddhist era begins with the passing away of the Buddha. And I'm here to read you a sutta from the Buddhist scriptures. It's called the Upada Sutra. But before I get on with the sutta, I thought I'd give you a brief background to the Buddhist canon or the Buddhist scriptures for those of you who are not familiar with how it's organized. So the Buddhist scripture is written in the language of Pali, and that's the language that the Buddha used to give sermons at that time. And it's organized into 3 parts that we call the 3 Pitakas, or 3 baskets. The first one contains all his discourses or sutras or sermons given to different people at different times, sometimes groups of people, and that's the Sutra Pitaka. The second one is called the Vinaya Pitaka, which is the code of ethics and conduct for monks. The third one is called the Abhidhamma Pitaka, which includes higher doctrine of Buddhism, what Buddhism is all about. And it goes on to talk about the mind, our thoughts, how our thoughts are made up of, or how they are categorized into different groups and such. So if you ask me what is Buddhism all about, other than being in a community and loving kindness, it's the study of the mind. How our actions are based on our thoughts, and it's the analysis and of how the mind functions. If you think about it, even to get up from your seat, your mind has to instruct, okay, it's time to get up from the seat. So all our actions are based on our mind and our thoughts. So let's get on with this sutta. It's from the Sutra Pitaka. Sutra Pitaka is again divided into 5 parts, and this one comes from a part called the Samyutta Nikaya, or Connected Discourses. And so next I'm going to explain the sutra in English and read it in English and give you a bit of a background. So Upada Sutra, Upada means half. And you might ask, half of what? So we're going to find out as we read this sutra, okay? And pretty much in all sutras at the beginning, the occasion is laid out. Where was Buddha staying and who was in attendance? Was it just a single monk or single lay person or group of monks or group of lay people? And these suttas are all eventually recited by Venerable Ananda, who is the chief attendant of the Buddha. And he basically took care of the Buddha. Okay? So here goes the Upada Sutra. Thus have I heard, on one occasion, the Blessed One, that's Buddha, was staying among the Sakyans. There is a Sakyan town named Sakkara, also called the Nagarika. So I'm going to pause here and give you a bit more background. So Buddha was living in this town called Sakyans, or the area. And that was his hometown, by the way. So he was the prince or the son of the king who was destined to become the king of that region. But he left that luxurious, comfortable life to find out the truth or the meaning behind life, and he eventually found what he was looking for, and that's what we call enlightenment. So he's now back in that same town that he grew up, and I have to add that Venerable Ananda, his attendant, was also a Sakyan. He happened to be Buddha's cousin, and their fathers were brothers. Yeah. So it's like, Sakyan, we call it like South Carolinians or something like that, yeah, it's that meaning. So that's the venue and such. So there, Venerable Ananda went to the Blessed One, and on arrival, having bowed to the Blessed One, sat to one side. As he was sitting there, Venerable Ananda said to the Blessed One, "This is half of the holy life, Lord, having admirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues." And then Buddha replies, "Don't say that, Ananda, don't say that. Having admirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues is actually the whole of holy life and not the half. When a monk has desirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues, he can be expected to develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path." Again, I'm going to pause here and give a bit more background. This, the original word, the Pali word for admirable friend, which is translated as admirable friend, is Kalyana Mitta. And in this translation, it's called the admirable friend, but elsewhere I have seen it translated as noble friend, spiritual friend, like that. A friend who gives advice and encouragement on following the Noble Eightfold Path. And Noble Eightfold Path constitute the steps that one has to follow in order to attain their own enlightenment. So this is the second passage of Buddha's answer. And how does a monk who has admirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues develop and pursue the Noble Eightfold Path? There is the case where a monk develops right view, right resolve, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So these are the 8 steps in the Noble Eightfold Path. And his last paragraph of his answers. And through this line of reasoning, one may know how having admirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues is actually the whole of the holy life. It is dependence on me as the admirable friend that being subjected to birth have gained release from birth, that being subjected to aging have gained release from aging, that being subjected to death have gained release from death, that being subjected to sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair have gained release from sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair. It is through this line of reasoning that one may know how having admirable people as friends, companions, and colleagues is actually the whole of the holy life. So it's obvious this advice was given to monks for their own spiritual advancement, but it could also be extended to other people, lay people, ordinary people, that associating with admirable friends, colleagues, and companionship is important for their own life, friends, or being in a community like Sangha that was described before. People who help each other, nourish each other, particularly during difficult times, is the whole of even the lay life, not the half. So, last, I would like to read the sutta in Pali in its original words, so you will have a chance to listen to what the ancient language sounds like. And yeah, so this is Upada Sutra. I will just read the first verse so you can listen to it. Evang me sutang ekang samayang Bhagava sakkhe suviharati nagarakang namang sakkyanan nigamo atako ayasma anando yena bhagava tenupasankhaming upasankhamitva bhagavantang abhivadetva ekamantang nisidi Ekamantang nisinno ko ayasma anando bhagavantang etadavocha upadamidang bante brahmacharyasya yadidang kalyana mittata kalyana sahayata kalyana sampavattatati mahevang ananda sakalameva hidang ananda Brahmacharyang yadidang kalyana mittata kalyana sahayata kalyana sampavattata kalyana mittasettang ananda bhikkhuno patikang kalyana sahayassa kalyana sampavadassa ariyang attangikang maggang bhave sati ariyang attangikang maggang bahuli karissati. Thank you.
Okay, now it is time for, I think, everyone's favorite part of this service, which is the bathing of the baby Buddha ritual. This is a traditional ritual that is done in many Southeast Asian countries. People will come to the temple on Vesak, as we've come to the temple today, and perform the bathing of the baby Buddha, which in some ways recreates the scene or the story of his birth. It's a lovely mythological story that when the baby Buddha was born, he was immediately conscious, aware, awake. He stood. He took 7 steps, and each place that his feet touched the earth, a lotus flower bloomed. And then, when you come forward in just a minute, you'll see the little baby Buddha pointed to the heavens, asking the devas and the celestial beings to witness his birth. And as he did so, a sweet rain came from the heavens to bathe him. So we're going to recreate that today. And also this signifies or symbolizes purification. So as you perform the ritual, if you choose to come forward, you can sort of keep that in mind, this is about purifying and blessing the baby Buddha, but it's also about purifying our minds, which is one of the Buddha's central teachings. One of his simplest teachings is do good, do not do evil, purify the mind. So we'll be purifying the baby Buddha and also our own minds. So let me say just a few little practical things. I think we're going to do this as we did the flower communion, I'm understanding, a few Sundays ago. So we're going to go by sections. I think, is this one, Wei Wan? This is section 1?
Just goes this way, so if you're sitting on that side, just go back.
Right.
And join the line.
Yes, and so the line will go in a big circle. So please be careful as you pass of someone who might be still sitting. And I would like to say, those of you who choose to not come forward, and those of you at home who are watching on the live stream, you can do this internally. You can think about purification. You can envision that sweet rain coming down to bathe the baby Buddha. So when you come forward, there are little lotus cups on the table. There's beautiful scented water surrounding the baby Buddha, and if you'll just take a cup and dip some water 3 times. Everything in Buddhism is 3. And just let it bathe the baby Buddha 3 times. And then if you choose, a little bow. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
live with joy in this world. May you be filled with love.
Happens every year, it makes me cry. I shouldn't wear mascara. It's very lovely to see all of you doing that ritual, and I thank you for participating, and those of you at home as well who did it on your own. So I want to also welcome each of you to Vesak, our beautiful Buddhist service, and also say good morning to everyone watching online, and good morning to all beings everywhere, human, non-human, near, far, large, small, visible, invisible. I am really happy to be back in this beautiful sanctuary to continue this 10-year, well, it's more than 10 years now, tradition of celebrating Vesak. This is, as Shriyani mentioned, this is the most sacred holiday in the Theravada school of Buddhism, which is the earliest school of Buddhism and the one that you'll find in most Southeast Asian countries. For those of you who don't know me, I have been a practicing Buddhist for most of my adult life, 40 plus years, and I'm also a friend of UUFC. And for many years, more than a decade, you all as a fellowship have welcomed myself and a group of fellow meditators to meet here on Saturday mornings for our Buddhist practice. And you continue to offer your sanctuary for the Tuesday evening group. And this service was actually born way back in 2013 as a thank you for your generosity for letting us use this space. And we appreciate that. So this is our gift back to you. So I was going to say a few things about Vesak. Shriyani has very beautifully explained that to us, that it celebrates the three signal events of the Buddha's life, all of which happened on the full moon in this month of Vesak, or May. So this is really a holiday when we can celebrate that whole arc of the Buddha's life, his remarkable life and his towering spiritual achievement and the gift that he gave us of the Dharma, his teaching. So this morning, as promised, as advertised, I'm going to talk about community. That is today's theme, or Sangha, as it's known in the Buddhist world. And we heard in the wonderful opening words read by Wei Wan, thank you, from Thich Nhat Hanh, that this concept is central to the Buddhist teaching. It's one of the three jewels at the core of Buddhism. There's Buddha, the teacher, Dharma, or Dhamma, which is the teaching, the truth, and then there is Sangha, which hopefully by now you've caught on, that means community. Oftentimes Buddhists are asked, well, how do you become a Buddhist? What makes you officially a Buddhist? Is there some sort of membership book that you sign, like in the UU? Is there a confirmation ceremony that you have to go through? And some schools of Buddhism do have formal rituals where you kind of join the fold. But really, at its core, at its essence, you become a Buddhist when you take refuge in those three jewels: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So, most layperson Buddhists have a practice, a daily practice of chanting that threefold refuge, that we're taking refuge in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So we chant, Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami, Sangham saranam gacchami. 3 times, taking refuge, Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. So in Sri Yanni's wonderful sharing of the sutta, we heard that classic story from the Buddhist scripture, from the canon, where Ananda, the Buddha's right-hand man, came to the Buddha and said, Lord, I think that noble companionship, Sangha, that third jewel, it's so important. It must be at least half of the holy life. And the Buddha said, no, Ananda, do not say so. Very emphatic, do not say so. And then he explained how and why Sangha is the whole of the holy life. And he said, when we associate with noble friends, other people who share our spiritual path, all these people around you right now, we get inspired. We are energized. We help each other on the path. We derive strength from the power of community. And the Buddha knew that. And it's telling that the very first thing the Buddha did after his enlightenment on the full moon in May, the very first impulse he had was to go and find the 5 ascetics, the 5 spiritual seekers that he had been hanging out with for several years as he developed his spiritual purity. So he went back and he found his 5 friends, and he delivered his very first sermon after enlightenment to his Sangha. And that was a famous discourse called The Turning of the Wheel of Dhamma. He put the wheel into motion with that first sermon. It was given in a forest called the Deer Park, and his audience was those 5 ascetics, his original Sangha. He was honoring the preciousness of community and Sangha. Now, dear UUFC friends, I know that here in your community, your Sangha, in about 45 minutes, you're going to be meeting and discussing and voting on something that you've been considering and thinking about and talking about for a long time. It's a very important issue to you and your community. So I would like to spend just the next couple of minutes offering something from Buddhism that I hope might be helpful in that process as you go into that meeting. This is another Buddhist concept, and it concerns what the Buddha said that we need to be effectively and harmoniously in community with each other. These are 4 qualities of mind and heart that help us interact with others, with the whole rest of the world, in a healthy, positive way. These are known in Buddhism as the 4 Brahma Viharas. And Brahma Vihara can be translated various ways. You might hear it referred to as the 4 heavenly abodes or the 4 divine abodes. It's also called the 4 immeasurables or the 4 sublime states. But really, it's just simply wholesome qualities of mind and heart. That's the easiest way to kind of understand them and connect with them. These are 4 virtues that we Buddhists strive to embody every day in all of our interactions and our choices. But I truly think that they're universal and that anyone can aspire to develop these qualities in themselves. And certainly whenever they're trying to decide something as a group, as you all will be doing later today. Okay, so what are the 4 immeasurables? I won't keep you in suspense any longer. Let's look at them one by one. The first one is something that we sang about in that first hymn this morning, metta, or loving kindness. And the music that we just had during the ritual, that was a chant of singing loving kindness over and over. Metta, or loving kindness, is this quality of feeling benevolence and goodwill toward all beings, even those that we have difficulty with. Let me repeat that. Even those we have difficulty with. Metta is not easy. Very needed, but not easy. Metta is the heart's caring for the well-being of everyone, human and non-human. There's a chant, the original Buddhist Metta Sutta, and it includes these lines. Even as a mother would risk her life for her only child, even so we should cultivate a heart of boundless loving kindness all around, above, below, everywhere. That's metta. The second Brahma Vihara, number 2, is karuna, or compassion. And this quality arises when we see someone else or another being suffering or struggling in some way, when we see them in pain. Karuna carries with it this impulse to try to relieve that suffering, to try to help. So it's a beautiful quality, obviously, and it's one that's especially useful when we're having difficulty with another person, because it's literally transformative when we can view the difficulty that we're having or the disagreement we're having through that lens of karuna. We can see with compassion our own struggle and the other person's struggle. Okay, number 3, the third Brahma Vihara is mudita. Mudita is translated a couple of ways. You might hear it described as sympathetic joy, or maybe more simply just joy in the joy of others. So this is sort of the flip side of karuna. Karuna is compassion when we see someone struggling. Mudita is feeling joy when we see someone else doing well, when we see them feeling joy. We share their joy. We take delight in someone else's good fortune. So that means there's no sense of competition or envy or my way has to be the right way. Just pure joy that someone else is doing well. And mudita grows as we develop the understanding that we're really not separate. My happiness is your happiness is my happiness, our happiness is our happiness. Okay, number 4, we're getting there. The last immeasurable is something that really tends to arise naturally as we practice the first 3. This 4th one is upekkha, and that's translated as equanimity. Equanimity comes to us when we've developed enough insight and wisdom that we can meet our experiences, whatever's happening in our life, with open-heartedness. We're not wishing for things to be different. We're not wishing for our experience to be better. We're not wanting to change the experience. We're just meeting it open-heartedly. We're abiding in that state of equanimity where we can handle anything, the ups and downs of life, the difficulties with grace and calmness. So these are the 4 Brahma Viharas: metta, or loving kindness; karuna, or compassion; mudita, sympathetic joy, joy in the joy of others; and upekkha, or equanimity. These 4 actually act like sort of the 4 cornerstones of Buddhist practice. But as I said, I think they can really be precious guideposts for anyone, Buddhist, non-Buddhist, all of us. Okay, I'd like to close with one last thought. This comes to us from Thich Nhat Hanh, who Wei read for us this morning. Thich Nhat Hanh said that the greatest talent is learning to live in harmony with other beings. And he was also well known for his kind of revolutionary idea that the future Buddha, the next Buddha who comes to this world, well, let me wait. I don't want to give away the punchline. let me stop for a second and explain that the Buddha of this era, the historic Buddha, this baby Buddha who we just bathed a few minutes ago, is known as Gautama Buddha, and he is the Buddha of this era. But it is said that he will eventually be followed by another Buddha. There's an endless succession of Buddhas coming to the world to help us and teach us. So Thich Nhat Hanh had a very interesting idea that the next Buddha may not be a person, may not be an individual person. He said that the next Buddha may be Sangha, community. He said that it might be a group of people who are practicing loving kindness and karuna and mudita and upekkha, all of these wonderful qualities together. He said that the next Buddha might be all of us practicing the four immeasurables, the four sublime states. So think on that just for a minute. The next Buddha, the next awakened, enlightened being, not a single teacher, not an individual, but a community like this, a community, a Sangha built on love and understanding. And that is the whole of the holy life. Thank you very much. And now you're invited to rise in body or in spirit as we sing together hymn number 184.
Hello, let me know, can you hear me, everybody? All right, so I'm closer to the mic, so it picks me up. So, okay, I'm gonna do the Metta Sutra, it's a meditation, or otherwise known as the loving kindness. You guys are gonna be beat to a pulp from both loving kindness today, but that's how we're gonna end the ceremony. And I will ring the bell at the end of the sing and put out the flame. So what I'd like for you to do is get comfortable in your seats with both feet on the floor. Take a couple of deep breaths, close your eyes, and just follow along with me, saying to yourself as I say these words to you. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be free from fear. Next, think about somebody that you love, that you hold dear, maybe a group of people, your family or whatever, that you hold truly dear to you, and let them visualize them in front of you and say to them now in your mind, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be free from fear. Now, moving on to darker clouds, think of somebody that you've had a disagreement with. These days, that's quite easy to do, I guess. And think about, or somebody that you have a conflict with. And now let them be in front of you. This is the hard one for me. And say to them, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be free from fear. And now let's take this, our loving kindness, to the congregation, but out into the city, out into the state, out into the country all around us, out further and further into the world, and finally moving out into away from our planet to the universe itself. We're going to say to all beings now, reaching out and sending that loving kindness to them. May all beings be filled with loving kindness. May all beings be well. May all beings be peaceful and at ease. May all beings be free from fear.